Welcome to State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. The State of Wellbeing is a holistic well-being podcast with the goal of supporting the campus community as we strive to be a growing, high-performing, and healthy university. Welcome to State of Wellbeing. I'm Caitlin Walters, the Wellbeing Specialist, and joining me today is...
My name is Jake Heidenreich. I am the Fitness and Aquatics Coordinator at the Miller Wellness Center.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Jake. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do here on campus?
Yeah, so like I said, Fitness and Aquatics Coordinator. So I help oversee the personal training program, the group fitness, all of the instructors, all of the classes that go into group fitness, and then also the aquatics, dealing with the pool, swim lessons, just the general lifeguards, just the general recreation that happens within the pool, all fall under me.
Yeah, you got a lot of different hats that you wear.
Every day is a little bit different, for sure.
So we'll be releasing this episode kind of late December to kind of just help kind of set people up as they think about New Year's. And I know New Year's resolutions are really popular. And so really we wanted to talk today about goal setting and motivation and maybe how to make those New Year's resolutions a little bit more permanent or stay around a little bit longer. So can you tell us a little bit about how you use goal setting in your work?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one is always with personal training. With personal training, people are coming in. They want to utilize our trainers to help them get towards a fitness goal, whether that's, getting stronger, getting healthier, whatever that means for them, losing weight, being able to accomplish tasks within their life, whatever it may be. So we utilize goal setting, obviously, because if you're going into that program, like you're going there for a purpose. And so making sure that when someone comes into their program, that we're able to align their goals with what our trainers are providing them.
Well, I think it's interesting too because, and you can maybe tell me better on the ages, but it sounds like and it looks like you work with personal training clients from the ages of like 6th grade all the way up to like, I don't know, what would you say your oldest client might be?
We've had clients up to 97, that are just like, yeah, I want to be able to walk from my car. I want to be able to like get out and still do gardening and just doing simple activities of life to, like we will train a decent amount of middle school to high school kids that, that they're hoping to take their athleticism to the next level, and everything in between from, 10 to 90 is what we do. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think it's cool to see the importance of, including physical activity and goals and motivating folks throughout the lifespan too, which is always really interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a little bit more personal, but do you have any goals that you've recently set in your personal life?
Yeah. So in my personal life, I like to, one of my hobbies is competing in a sport called strongman. And within strongman, there's different weight classes within there. And I compete in a weight class that's roughly about 230 pounds. Well, I've done that for probably 7 or 8 years now. So I'm taking on a new challenge recently to drop down a weight class, which involves losing about 20 to 30 pounds while still trying to be, competitive and have fun. It's a new goal I had. It's not like I needed to lose weight or want, even like it was out of like just trying a new challenge. Wasn't anything, had to do with like body looks or anything like that. It's just trying to present myself with a new challenge. But yeah, so that is a new challenge that I've been embarking on, and it's kind of been fun to go after.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really cool goal, and I'll be interested to hear how it goes. And
yeah, for sure.
What all do they do in the? This is maybe a little off topic, but what all do they do in the strongman competitions?
So that's kind of the fun part about strongman is you can kind of do anything. Usually you're lifting something overhead. Usually you're deadlifting something, carrying something, picking up really odd objects or really heavy things like tires or cars or rocks are often involved, stones. No two competitions are the same, and that's what kind of makes it fun. And so like there's always unique challenges to that. And so like that's why me trying to move down a weight class, the weights become different, but then you're also a smaller person, so like just there's always new challenges to go about with it.
Well, if that sounds interesting to listeners, I would certainly reach out to Jake for more information on how to find those, because that's unique, I think, for sure. And I've seen a picture in your office of you carrying a car, and it's very impressive.
yeah, it's fun.
Do you have any particular goal setting styles that you use, or maybe you encourage clients to use?
Yeah, so I think our number one goal setting style that we utilize at the Wellness Center is SMART goals. You've probably heard about it. Your specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, time sensitive. Laid out in that acronym of SMART. So that's the one that we teach to our trainers to utilize with their clients, so that they're setting up goals that they can utilize. So if we go down the letters of SMART, specific, so not just saying, oh, I want to gain muscle. It's I want to gain X amount of pounds of muscle. And measurable means that we can actually, see if that was successful. So like at the Wellness Center, we utilize a body composition tool that can give us that feedback. Attainable means that it's actually something reasonable. My 13-year-old client, if he says, oh, I want to look like a bodybuilder, well, maybe that's not attainable for you. Maybe not at this stage of life. And that kind of goes hand in hand with reasonable. Like we often talk about that in terms of like reasonable if you set a really lofty goal, but you have a really short time span on it. Like, oh, I want to be this size, or I want to do this by spring break. Is that going to be really reasonable for how lofty the goal is? And then the last one being time, your time of it. They all flow together, but like the time of, are we making sure that the goal actually matches the timeline that you want it to fit? And maybe that means we need to stretch out, like depending on what the goal is, it might mean that we need to stretch out the timeline, or we need to consolidate the goal so that all of those things can line up and lead to success.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important of why it's so nice to work with a personal trainer, because they're going to maybe be a little bit honest with you of how attainable and realistic some of these goals are. And, maybe we need to rethink this goal, and maybe this is a better way to approach it, and just working with someone versus like, I think sometimes when we set goals for ourselves, it's like, yeah, I can do that. And then, we find out shortly later that maybe I can't, and I fall off, and I give up on my goal that I set in the beginning. And so having someone to kind of help you set those goals is a really nice part about working with a trainer.
Absolutely.
I often work with folks in kind of like the wellness space of like maybe how we want to improve different like our well-being or different specific wellness dimensions in our lives. And one goal setting style that I found that I've kind of found interesting is called the WHOOP. So it's wish, outcome, obstacle, and your plan. And so the wish is, what do I want to try to achieve? The outcome is like, what would it look like if I achieved that? Like, what does that bring? What does it do for me? What would be some of the changes I could anticipate? And then what I really like about it is the obstacle part, because you identify what your obstacle is that you might like, oh, I often scroll on my phone at night and I don't get my workout in, or I often scroll on my phone at night and I don't sleep when I want to. Mm-hmm. But finding that like obstacle that is going to maybe hinder you or stop you from reaching that wish. And then the plan that you have for how you're going to avoid that, or how you're going to overcome that obstacle if you do face it. I just like that one. I think it works well in tandem with SMART, because I think you should set your goals and your wishes to be, SMART goals. But then having that like plan of like, okay, and this is what I'm going to do if I run into an obstacle. So I like that one too. I think that they kind of like work really nicely together.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because anytime our trainers have a new client, those are the two follow-up questions that come off of, let's make a SMART goal. Okay. What does success look like with this SMART goal for me? And then what are some obstacles that we foresee being something that's going to hinder that SMART goal? So yeah, that's kind of cool that I like that.
They go really well together.
Yeah, they blend well together.
So I think moving a little bit more into kind of the motivation side of things, because we can set goals, but then it's about like, how do I find the motivation to reach those goals? Can you talk to me a little bit about the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation?
Sure. So just defining those two terms, intrinsic would be like the motivation that you have within yourself. Like you desire this goal, you're the person that's holding yourself accountable. When it's all based off of your beliefs and your determination to get that done. You're not relying on other factors to get that done, and that's all intrinsic motivation. Like versus the extrinsic, that's when we're using external resources to help us stay on top of things. Like a personal trainer would be our extrinsic motivator. Our a app that you have on your phone, that's your intrinsic or extrinsic motivator. Your friend that is helping you stay accountable, that's your extrinsic motivator. And so I think both having options within both of those when you're setting goals is really important. It's very unlikely that you're going to be able to just intrinsically be motivated all the time by your goal. When you have to go wake up at 5 a.m. to go do a workout, it's really hard to be intrinsically motivated to accomplish that, especially when we get into it being cold and it's dark outside and there's a lot of extrinsic negative factors going into it. So having a mix of both, obviously we want to have some sort of intrinsic motivation, or else why do you really want to do this? If you are not intrinsically motivated to do it just a little bit, then maybe this isn't the goal for you, and that's a fair conversation to have as well. So
I think that's a really good point. I often talk about I'm a runner. I like to run. I've run a couple different races and I really enjoy it. But when I give it as an example of here's how I set the goal and here's how I trained for it. But then it's also like, if you hate running, you're probably, if you've always hated it, you've tried it, you've done it, you might not ever be intrinsically motivated to be a runner. And that's okay. You should try something different,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not every form of, physical activity or every form of physical activity or wellness activity is going to be specific to each person. And so running's not for everybody, just as maybe there are other exercises that aren't for everybody, but finding one that you find motivating is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we talked about it a little bit ago. I compete in strongman. I expect no one to enjoy that. That sounds really difficult, doesn't it? And so but yeah, that's what I enjoy. And so when people are like, oh, don't you want other, of course, but not everyone's motivated by rocks. So if we can find whatever is going to work for you, whether it be running, going to a group fitness class, whatever is going to help. Yeah.
I am also a rock climber, and I would say I am motivated by rocks, but in a different
in a different way.
I think it's nice. You talked about the benefit of using kind of both. I do enjoy running, but I have some external motivators, like my running partner, who we make those commitments together. And if I bail, then I know she's going to give me a hard time about it. And we kind of encourage each other to get up early or, make sure we're meeting each training session. I also have 2 dogs, and if I don't run them, they have a ton of energy and they'll kind of drive me, they'll just really annoy me for the rest of the day. And so they're kind of a nice external motivator, because I'm well, if I go for this run, then they'll be, sleepy and less annoying for the rest of the evening. But then I also enjoy it. And so it's a nice balance, I think. And I like that you talk about using kind of both to help motivate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any other favorite or best methods for motivating yourself or for others? How do you teach your personal trainers to motivate their clients?
That's a good question. So I would say it always comes down to, with our personal trainers especially, is since they're that extrinsic motivator, they have to kind of mold themselves to the client. and make sure that they're finding the way that they respond. Every person kind of responds differently. Like if you think back to maybe when you were in high school, if you played sports, we had coaches that were always yelling at you, and maybe some people it worked really well for them. And then you have some coaches that really spoke softly to you, and you responded really well to that. And so what we can always talk about with our trainers is to find a way to, you can't be one of those people. You have to be all of those people, and it depends on what clients in front of you at that time. We have clients that are in the room and their trainer is go, 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 because that is what they respond to, and that's what they want out of a trainer. And then we have other clients that are like, I need someone that's going to tell me what to do, but also be my friend for an hour, and not in a weird way, but like I need some conversation. We're having an enjoyable, kind of a quieter time. And both of those things can coexist, and I see them coexist in a single trainer. He or she, the trainers can go from one session to the next and flip-flop their personality styles. And so kind of tying that back into the original question of like motivation styles is kind of understanding yourself and how you respond to it. Not being your own mean coach that's yelling at you inside your head. Like if you missed a run, or you missed a meal, or whatever it may be that's helping you towards your goal. Figuring out for yourself what's the best way inside my brain that I can, hold myself accountable. Do I need to, give myself grace? Yep, that's okay. We're going to get back on track. Or is it, no, I need to, be hard on myself. Yep, we're going to get back on the, and reframing how am I communicating with myself inside my brain.
Yeah, I think it's important to, figuring out what's going to be best for you and what kind of helps you kind of find that willingness to overcome if I miss, like I said, like you said, if I miss a run or if I miss a workout, or, how do I get back on my feet too. I wanted to talk, because we are going to release this around New Year's. Do you have any insight into why so many people fail to reach New Year's resolutions? I have a stat here that says around 88% of people fail their New Year's resolution within the first 2 weeks of setting one.
Sure. I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier of intrinsic motivation, and kind of like idealizing what I think, like you talked about, like the wish. Idealizing what that actually looks like if I set this magical goal for myself, and the idea is better than the actual progress that it takes. And so like it kind of all just goes together of like, is, say your New Year's a typical one is like losing weight. Maybe like life isn't actually going to be better if you've lost weight. Maybe, and that's why like they fall off so quickly, because like this actually isn't enjoyable for me, and I'm not really that intrinsically motivated to do this. And so like it's more so on, can we do better planning of our New Year's resolutions and setting ourselves up to like, really actually think about your goal. Is it, am I doing a New Year's resolution goal just simply because like this is the time of year to do it, everyone else is doing it? I think I should set a goal as well. Do I actually even like this goal? Is it something that I'm going to be able to do? There's a lot of factors that kind of go into that, but the biggest thing is like making sure that it actually fits you and what you're going to be able to accomplish.
Well, I think it's important too that like real progress takes time.
Yeah.
And sometimes we plateau in our maybe if your goal is like to build strength, sometimes we plateau, sometimes we get sick and we kind of like have to take a week off. Things can kind of up and down, and I think oftentimes too people expect this like really drastic change really quickly, but when you're really setting like actual goals that are going to be meaningful for you, they often take a lot of time to see any kind of results.
Yeah.
And I think when people don't see those results, it's like, oh, well, this isn't working. I'm just going to not do it. Or it's a lot of effort for nothing that's happening, you know?
Yeah. And that's where I always think like it kind of goes back to the New Year's is kind of maybe a tough time, especially where we live, to actually like set up life-changing goals because it's cold outside. It's dark outside during that time. You just came off of like, you know, a time of like there is Christmas and New Year, and there's just so much hustle and bustle to your life. You're starting a new semester of school. There's so much noise happening within your life that maybe that just, you know, it doesn't have to happen at January 1st. Maybe at the end of the semester when it's May and I am kind of free from school and it's sunny outside and I feel excited about life again, you know, from getting out of the cold. And maybe that's the right time to set, you know, more ambitious goals or, you know, do something along those lines because it's just going to work better into your lifestyle. And, you know, time frame can be a huge factor into actually having success.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to talk a little bit about habits because I think that kind of falls under all of this. Can you talk to us about like building habits and maybe how that either relates to or plays into goal setting?
Yeah, I think it's the foundation of having a successful goal is you turn a new thing into something that you're doing on a consistent basis, whether it be every day, every other day, every week, whatever it may be. The habits are what are going to cause it to be successful. If your goal is to, you know, something to do with fitness, if you're only going to exercise once every other week, maybe it's not like the frequency of that habit isn't happening enough to actually, you know, contribute towards that goal. So, you know, making sure that those habits align with the goal is probably the number one indicator, like, of when we talked about like success versus not success. Are your habits actually aligning with that goal? And making sure that they're consistently happening in your life so that instead of it becoming a new habit, it's just, this is my lifestyle. They're no longer habits. They're just things I do.
Yeah. I, several years ago was kind of I was just like I would say like a rut. I wasn't like mentally, I just needed I needed to start moving my body and like getting more physical activity. And I wasn't, I feel like I was kind of struggling mentally too. And so I set a goal of, I'm going to get 30 minutes of physical activity every day. And so that could be like exercising. It could be walking my dogs. It could be gardening, whatever. And I started with, it was like a habit tracker app.
Sure.
And I set it for my like daily 30-minute movement. And you like went in and you hit that you met your goal for that day. And it gave you like a little like flame emoji when you got like a streak. And if you like stayed on your streak. And that was, it helped me like, it like really actually, because I'm kind of like one of those people that like, I was a student that liked to get straight A's. Like it felt really good to be like, yes, I met my weekly habit tracker. And I can't remember when I finally stopped using it because like finally eventually it was just like, this is just who I am now. Like I don't have to think about it. It's not something that I have to like track and like encourage myself to do. But I thought that was really helpful for me when I was like really starting out, was to build that habit by maybe having that external motivation of like, yep, I get this little flame emoji, and if I miss it, it goes away, and then that's kind of, you got to work back up to it. I often when I talk about like habits and building habits, have you ever heard that like it takes 21 days to build a habit?
Yeah.
Do you know where that came from? Do you know the myth about it? Where it came from?
As soon as you say it, I'm gonna be like, oh yes, I remember that. But no, not off the top of my head.
So it is a myth. I think it came from, I might be getting the years wrong, but like in the 60s, there was a plastic surgeon who noticed that his clients took about 21 days to like get used to any changes that they had from their surgery. But in reality, in actual studies, they found that habit formation can take anywhere from 18 days to 254 days.
Yeah.
And the average is around 66 days. And so I think sometimes when people hear, because I think that like 21 days it's pretty common, you hear it a lot. So I think when people hear that and they reach 21 days and they're like, it still doesn't feel like a permanent habit, like it's not built yet, I think it's important to remember like it actually can take quite some time. It can take almost a year to make a habit like formed and concrete. And so I just like to kind of remind people of that too, that habits take time, and it's something that you have to continually work at too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that what you said is perfect. Everything takes longer than kind of what you're expecting. You see so much stuff out there nowadays of like everything's marketed to us as fast. You know, our lives are fast, our social media is fast. To hop on this 10-day, whatever it is, 10-day weight loss, 21-day to whatever it is, firmer abs, anything that you see like that, it's always marketed to you quickly. But in reality, anything that we're doing, whether it be, health and fitness, or even just, anything in general, it's going to take us some time to actually make meaningful change.
I'm glad you brought up social media, because I do think that plays into such a big part of all of this. And my social media, like the For You pages, are always super interesting, because I follow a lot of health and well-being accounts, but I get these like videos that'll be like, oh, here's what I did to get X, Y, or Z in 21 days, like you were saying. And I think it's important for us to be critical of those videos and to think, okay, well, what aren't they showing us? Like this person, their full-time job might be this, and they have all this, time and resources, and what else aren't they showing you? And so I think I just like to encourage people to be a little bit critical when they see something that seems like you said, like a quick fix, or like this is the answer to get this perfect. Because one, you don't have that person's genetics, and you don't have that person's lifestyle, and there's so many factors that play into it that I think people kind of miss when they see those. And it's like, well, that should be a simple fix. I'll just eat like this person, and then I'll look like that person. Like that's almost never true.
Yeah, it's never going to happen like that.
What are some good ways? So we'll go back to kind of goals, and we've talked about motivation. I want to talk a little bit about accountability. What are some good ways to keep yourself accountable towards your goals?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different ways, and it all depends on your, kind of balance of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivators, and what you've kind of determined is your way to, properly motivate yourself. And so when you're going about that, like making sure that you have things that are going to set up to be successful for you. Like for myself, things like a lot of people are like the Apple Watches, or like a Garmin or a Fitbit, like they do really well for them because they help them remember to get their steps, to stand up. They can tell you when to drink water, like do all of those things. And like for myself, I hated it every single time and then I quickly ignored it. And so then it became not helpful for myself. And so the first off is understanding where you're at with those things. But coming back to that, like you had said it about the habit tracking app, or different things like that can be super beneficial. I think one of the best ones is if you can get a friend to do it with you, because like you said, the apps can vary, or I guess I said it, like the apps can very quickly just be clicked and then they're gone. And, oh yeah, whatever, I'll look at it later. Or your Apple Watch buzzes and says it's time to stand up. Oh, well, I'm in the middle of this homework assignment. I'll do it next time. And then quickly those things fall apart. But if there's a friend knocking on your dorm room door at 5:15 in the morning to go to the 5:30 spin class, I'm probably going to get up, because, then I'm letting someone else down. And so I think finding a friend that wants to do whatever it is with you, and that's why like study partners and, are so successful, study groups, Bible study groups, whatever it may be, doing things in a group setting is so important to us. And so finding your community, finding your group can be huge towards building those healthy habits.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, finding the right people to tell too. Mm-hmm. I know there's been times where I've told people a goal and they were like, really? Like I ran a full marathon, and I told a few people I was going to run a full marathon. And the ones that I told, I was really specific about, but there were a few people that I told and they were like, why? Why would you do that? And they weren't encouraging. And so I think making sure when you do tell, or when you work with someone or you have a buddy, it's someone that's going to like help you make that goal. And like study, we hear about it all the time. Like picking your study partners is so important, because if you pick someone who's going to like, okay, we're focusing, we're here, we're working on this, versus like someone who's you're going to start talking and get distracted, and you're showing each other videos on, social media.
Yeah.
So I think just making sure it's the right person who's going to support you in that goal, and maybe not like detract or maybe make you feel guilty if you don't make that goal, or bring on shame. I think that's also kind of important.
Yeah, and I think like if we're talking about like within the fitness space, that's why our group fitness is so successful. There's a community within you. You see the same person at that group fitness class every Tuesday, whether it be the person that's sitting beside you on the mat, or it's the instructor up there once they get to know you and you get to know them. And then all of a sudden, like, you miss 1 week and the instructor's like, oh, hey, Caitlin, I didn't see you last week. I missed you. And then you're like, oh, yeah, this does matter to me. This matters to someone else. We're affecting each other, and I want to be here because I enjoy it, but then also someone else is noticing.
I've been called out by Peyton a few times for missing Pilates classes. I think those are really great. And I think also just journaling too can be a good source of accountability. If maybe you're not the type of person that has that like buddy that you're going to work out with, but maybe journaling or writing it down and tracking it that way, or just kind of encouraging yourself through kind of those different means, or another way that you can do it.
For sure.
So we talked a couple last things here. We talked a little bit about like when you fall off, or when you maybe skip an exercise, or you don't make the goal. How do you encourage someone who maybe fell off the tracks on their goal?
Yeah. So there's very few times in life where we are expecting 100% adherence, 100% success in anything. You meet probably 1 out of 100 people that are like, yep, I've had 4.0 straight A's my entire life from the time I went to kindergarten through college. Like, inevitably it happens. And that's giving yourself enough grace and enough space to understand that it's not going to be 100% successful. And if that's what you're looking at success being is 100% adherence, it's never going to happen. There is life that happens. And so being able to look at the bigger picture of it and say, yes, this didn't help me adhere to my goal this week, but it's not, if you zoom out on it, if my goal is for an entire year, this one time that I fell off, or this 1 week that I fell off, isn't going to ultimately super negatively affect it, because I'm getting back on and I'm going towards that goal. And it's that the one little bad thing, don't let it become the huge speed bump in your drive towards that goal.
I think that's really great. Well, Jake, last thing, do you want to plug any upcoming like personal training or group fit programs that you wanted to mention or put out there for folks who are listening?
Just know that we're here, and we're here to help. And like we talked about from a couple different aspects of our personal trainers, if your goal, if you ignored what I said and you still want to do a New Year's resolution, that's awesome. And we're here to help you, whether it be from a personal training standpoint and you want one-on-one care, absolutely, we'll be here to help you. Or maybe what we talked about with finding a community and having some group accountability towards a goal, and coming to a group fitness class. Next semester looks to be probably one of our biggest group fitness semesters ever, probably closing in on 70 classes a week. So there's a lot of fitness, there's a lot of health happening over at the Miller Wellness Center. So whatever it may be that you're wanting help with, we probably have something that can make that happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jake. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Your 2 processing questions for this episode: what does SMART goal stand for? And what is the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation? Thank you for listening to this episode of State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. This podcast is brought to you by the Mental Wellbeing Team and SD State Health.